This is They're Good at That Shit, a podcast where we talk to independent artists about areas where they've seen success and what they did to get there. Now, this episode is a little different because I wanted to highlight some of my favorite clips from some of the interviews we've had so far because I really think there are some absolute gems for any indie musicians out there. There are so many of us who have unlocked pieces of the success puzzle. And my goal with this podcast is to help lay out those pieces for you so you can use them to improve your own music journey. Now, whether it's mastering your craft, growing your audience, turning your music into a business, booking shows, getting involved with sync, there are countless paths that we see different artists taking to turn their dreams into reality. To kick it off, a word from Greg and Good Company.
To boil this all down and any discussion on music industry, music business, it all comes down to, do you have fans? Mm-hmm. That's it. It's simplify the whole thing. Build a fan base. Make fans.
It sounds simple, right? But how can an independent artist actually go about building an audience? I pulled some of the best advice we got from our guests to give you some ideas for different ways you can grow a fan base. First up, Kofi Agyei talking about how even though he produced songs that had hundreds of millions of streams, his projects as an artist were barely getting any traction. So he took things into his own hands. Check out what he did.
One of the easiest things, and it's like, I don't know why I never thought of it, but just build your own playlist, right? Mm-hmm. And try to market the playlist. A playlist of only your songs. For me, since I'm a producer, engineer, songwriter, whatever, I just put a playlist of a bunch of songs I've worked on and then a few of my releases because I didn't have that many at the time. You run Facebook ads on the playlist. What you do is you put different reference artists. But let's say like I use WizKid on almost all mine. So then you say, hey, Facebook, go through WizKid's followers and then optimize the people you show my ad to. Honestly, the smaller the artist, or the more niche the artist, the better. Okay. Because Facebook really knows that artist's following really well. Mm. Those targeted listeners, if they like your stuff, because they already like your type of music, if they like you, after your song is finished playing, then your next song is going to play. And then the next song is going to play. Rather than you just getting one stream, you getting like 5 or 6 streams and a new follower. Once you listen to somebody's 3 or 4 songs and you like them, you're a fan.
Finding ways to work the Spotify algorithm and the internet as a whole, it takes a lot of creativity. And my boy Roberto Horns definitely has some creativity. He shared how he used just a few $100s in a marketing budget to get over 500,000 streams on one of his songs. Here's what he did.
The way you got to do it to get a lot of streams on Spotify, and it's the same way a big artist does it. You kind of got to trick the algorithm. So when you first get a song on Spotify, you want it to get as many streams as possible from as many different sources. If you can get on playlists, even if they're smaller playlists, and if you can get a bunch of different people to stream your record, Spotify then recommends it to more people. What I found is that if you can get people to continuously listen in that first month or so, every time you get like a little spike, Spotify will recommend it to more people. You can get people to listen to your songs and put it on playlists and get like a large number up front. Spotify recommends it to more. It's kind of like this snowball effect after that. Another cool thing I've done, this isn't specifically for Spotify, but a way to get a bunch of people to listen to your thing the first week. I've paid people to tweet my record out before. I got like 700 followers on Twitter. I paid people that got like 40,000 followers. You send somebody $100 and they'll tweet anything, honestly. Like people don't make a lot of money on social media, but they got a lot of following and they got a lot of people that like listen to everything they say. I'll pay like, this is people specifically that I won't mention, but who are like popping now actually, that I've paid like $100 here and there to tweet my videos out, and literally within like a day you'll have 20,000 views on it. And all those don't go directly to Spotify, but if 10% of them click on my song on Spotify, that's 2,000 people to listen to my song one time on Spotify. Mm-hmm. And that will trick the algorithm. Oh, he got 2,000 different people to listen to a song. And so there you go. So it's like, it's not rocket science. It's kind of the same way the record labels do it. They just have a lot more money. So, if they have $100,000 versus $100, they can get 200,000 people to listen that first time, or because they can just get it popping up everywhere. And eventually you might click on it after you see it a million times. So I think that's kind of like the game right now, is like getting people's eyes on it. Hopefully it's good, or it sounds good, or it looks good, or something catchy about it. Getting that initial click, and that initial click will trigger more clicks later.
My guy Roberto Horns has so many creative ways he got his music out there, and the results really showed. Now, for those of you who are working on $0 for a budget and even a few $100s for marketing sounds out of reach right now, I want to share some advice from Reburn. She grew her YouTube channel to over 370,000 subscribers completely organically, but also she used some different tricks to get her page to perform well in the algorithm. So check it out.
I think that through my covers on YouTube, a lot of people have found my original music that probably wouldn't have found me if I hadn't been posting the covers. One of my early videos, Mr. Sandman, it didn't go viral, I won't say that, but it just slowly started snowballing over time. I could see from the comments that it was getting recommended in a lot of people's sidebars on YouTube. And I think that part of that, I got a lot of comments that said, like, I was expecting this to be Enter Sandman, the Metallica song, but it was Mr. Sandman, the 50s song by the Chordettes. So I think a lot of the people clicked on it initially because they misread the title and they were expecting like a cappella Metallica song. What? So I'm not sure if that's a lesson that anyone can actually use, but I do think that's kind of part of what kicked it off for me.
It really can happen in the strangest of ways sometimes. Okay, getting streams and growing your internet fan base, that's all well and good, but a lot of us get into this because we want to play our music in front of people. Playing your first shows can also be really intimidating. Plus, you're often responsible for getting the people to come to the show, which is easier said than done. So for our next segment, I'm going to share some clips from my conversations that talk about how to get fans out to your shows. First up, Brenda Carsey. She's played and booked tons of shows herself, and she gives a great breakdown.
I think there's a few things. So one is not overplaying. We call that oversaturating the market with yourself. So don't be playing like, one show every 2 weeks and then expect to pack it out, because it's not because people don't love you. They just have other things that they want to do in life. Number two, I feel like giving yourself enough time to promote and spread the word, so that way you're not stressed and everyone else has just so many things going on. And so just having it like stay in people's consciousness for a few weeks, I think is better than doing it all last minute. And then I do think that doing individual reach outs is really important. And I think a lot of people are like, I hate the copy paste text thing and all that. And for me personally, if I get a copy paste text that I can tell is a copy paste text, it doesn't bother me because they took the time to text me still. And they had to edit like a little bit of it. And to me, I'm like, I know how much energy it takes to do that. I'm a sucker for a direct invitation. I am.
I talked to artists before and they'd be like, yeah, man, nobody came to my show. And I'd be like, well, who'd you invite? I mean, well, nobody, but I posted on Instagram. But like, I never rely on Instagram to get people out to a show.
This is advice forever. Your friends are not your fans. You got to get that through your head. And it sucks and it can be painful. And sometimes your friends are your fans. Sometimes. But most of the time, if they're coming and they're your friends, it's because they just love you and support you and they believe in you. But life can get in the way of that, right? So building a fan base is different, and where you'll get people coming out because they want to hear your music or see your show more than just always relying on your friend base.
I love that advice, but it may leave you wondering, if I shouldn't rely on my friends or just an IG post, what can I do? Another guest, Tom Rasulo, had great advice from his band, Beaux, Gris, and the Apocalypse, and how they use targeted Facebook ads to pack out their shows.
At least like what Robin and Greta have kind of shown me, like peeked under the hood a little bit. Like they're running super, super targeted ads. So they know that we have a show coming up in, say, Edinburgh, for example, and they will like run specific targeted ads for a certain age group that listens to a certain type of music in Edinburgh. And they've maybe they've interacted with a blues page in the last month or something like that. So for each of those ads, they're paying like 50 cents for an ad or something like that. And we get a lot of people come to the show where I'm like, I always ask people, how'd you find out about us? And more times than not, they're like, oh, I saw an ad on Facebook.
I thought it was super interesting how Tom's band used a really similar method to what Kofi shared in the earlier clip, but instead of using the Facebook ads to drive streams, they were using it to drive ticket sales for their concerts, and they grew their fan base that way. And maybe you could try the same thing. So now once you build an audience, you play some shows in your hometown, you may be ready to take your show out on the road and play your first tour. We talked to some of our guests about that. Here's Greg and Good Company again with some great advice on why it's important for artists to tour.
The first thing I would say about touring and why I think it's really important for independent artists to do this is you have to do it to see if you like it. Because I personally love it. To me, it's a very fun. It's fun, it's freeing, it's liberating, it's a very spiritual experience for me. And I always have a total blast and just get so much great life experience from it that makes, regardless of whether I actually came out on top from a certain tour. Because there's also a lot of musicians say, I actually hate touring. They don't like it.
Yeah.
But if this is your life, this is your career you're working toward, you better find out sooner or later if you actually like the most important part of that career, which is being on the road, especially now where physical media has been so devalued. Artists are making their money by touring until you get to a level where you have a booking agent, where someone's going to take interest in you and see that you're viable, that they can make money off you,
right?
That they can book you and make money. You have to do it yourself. And the only way to do it is to do it.
But how can you get started touring? Well, Greg has some pro tips for that as well.
We were talking about Writers Round, how we have this now circuit, right? I think, for example, if you just you could start small. Going to play down in Fullerton as you've done, going down to play in San Diego. Okay, they're launching the Portland chapter. Maybe you make it a goal. I'm going to go play Writers Round Portland. And okay, that's a 16-hour drive. I'm going to make a 4-day tour out of that, up and back. And I'm going to play 2 shows up, 2 shows down, whatever. A pro tip, the most obvious pro tip that people ignore. Follow artists that meet your vibe and see where they play. And then reach out to those venues.
So a lot of you might think you can't go on tour until you're an artist and it's your music you're playing. But a lot of our guests are out there playing music night after night because they're part of a band or a group as a hired gun, meaning they're a paid musician playing in the band for another artist. Tom Rasulo talks about being the drummer in the band Beaux, Gris, and the Apocalypse and what life is really like out on tour.
I always liked the road, but I thought as I got older, I would hate it more. But it's good touring with other artists who are at their same stage in life, because we're not sleeping on the floor and we're not trying to sleep in the van and whatnot. We're staying in hotels and we're getting big, comfy, almost buses. They're a one step below a bus. It's a huge van that has tables in it and whatnot. So being on the road is really cool. It's tiring for sure though. You definitely put your work in, even when you have a drum tech. I'm not the type to just be pack up my stuff. You know, if I have somebody helping me, I'm going to help them help me. Yeah. So it's tiring. When you get home, you pass out for 4 days. But yeah, the road is cool, man. Seeing different people every night and going to a different town, it's pretty fulfilling.
You have any crazy stories from the road?
Well, it's definitely not as much of a party as you would think,
okay.
Because you kind of don't have time. When you're younger and you're I'm going to go on the road and there's going to be chicks and there's going to be I'm going to get drunk every night and we're going to be rock stars. It's right. Now you show up, you unload, you sound check, you go get dinner, you come back, you play your show. And we play for 2 hours each night. So you play your 2-hour set, you do the autograph thing afterwards. Then after everyone's out of there, you pack up all your stuff, you get in the van. And then by that point, you're I'm worn out. And so you go to your hotel and you pass out. And then the next morning you wake up and you drive to the next place and you do it all again.
And for our final clip of the episode, a great story from Maddi Fraser about the highs and lows of touring as a background singer in Bravo star Tom Sandoval's band.
I mean, touring is so much fun. I love traveling. And so getting to travel for work is ideal, and especially with people that you love and you get to see so many people. We used to be a little bit crazy, but if you watch Vanderpump Rules, this past couple years, it's been a little bit more brutal for poor Tom, poor sweet Tom, and all of us. And so there were some shows where the audience was a bit brutal. Because like the band is amazing and Tom is amazing, but like people would come in because they watched like the TV show. So it was like a lot of like, there was like a period where it was like very aggressive. But it was kind of a really great learning experience too, because like all of us got to learn what it would be like to perform in that environment, and then like see, like I was really inspired by Tom. Even like he was always like, we're going out, we're doing the show. Like he never wanted to cancel, he never backed down. Like he always took responsibility and got up there, and like that was such a big lesson for me, and inspiring, being like, no matter what, like you show up and you do your job and you work, you know.
All right, there you have it. This has been a lot of fun. I really enjoyed sharing some of my favorite clips from the first 9 episodes of They're Good at That Shit. And I hope it really took some of the information, broke it down into more actionable steps that you can take to help you with your music career, because that is really the goal of this podcast. All of the full episodes are on this YouTube channel, anywhere you listen to podcasts. And if any of the clips really spoke to you, I really encourage you to check out the full episode with that particular guest. Now, we're back to our regular format. Next episode on December 7th, and then another special year-end best of episode on December 23rd. I'm Broadway B. This has been They're Good at That Shit. I'll see you back here soon. Hey, what's up, y'all? It's Broadway, the host. If you got something out of the episode, definitely go ahead and hit the like button. Also subscribe and turn on the notifications so you can get notified whenever we drop new episodes. If there was something specific that you learned or found interesting, put that in the comments. Also, if there was something that you thought you were going to learn more about, wanted to hear more about, and you didn't, put that in the comments as well. We can use that to make these episodes better going forward. Thank you again for checking out They're Good at That Shit.